Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode on J of All Trades. Today I'm in my bathroom and I completely gutted it out and I've installed my tub and now I'm ready to put on my cement board. So let's get this thing started and get all the cement board installed. So the first thing is I'm actually going to be using a circular saw to cut the cement board because I found this to be one of the easiest ways to cut cement board. This blade that I'm using here is specifically designed to cut cement board. And here it is. It's a Diablo brand 5-inch 6-teeth fiber cement blade. You can find any of these blades at your local Home Depot and I'll include a link in the description. I found that using a level to draw a straight line in the center of each stud helps me to screw everything in much easier, and I hit the stud every single time. I space my screws out about a foot apart on each stud just to make sure that it's all secured properly, and you want to make sure that it's nice and tight. These are the screws that I'm using. These are backer on, rock on for use with all cement boards, and I'm using the 1 5/8" length, and I'm going to include a link in the description so you guys can go out there and get it. Cement boards can be very heavy, and the one that I'm using today is James Hardie. And this is a 1/2 inch by 3 foot by 5 foot cement board. So I've actually tried using the Durock brand, and that one I find to be much heavier and a little bit harder to work with. So I definitely recommend using this James Hardie stuff. I'm going to include a link in the description for the type of Hardie board that I'm using here, so you guys can go out there and get it if you'd like. One recommendation I'd like to make here is that you want to avoid having too many joints, especially at the lower end of the tub. If you have to put joints like I'm doing here, I'm putting them mostly at the top. This minimizes any issues when you're ready to waterproof. The idea is to make it less possible for it to have a leak, and so minimizing joints helps. If you're new to installing cement board, some of you may be wondering, this stuff reminds me of sheetrock. And can I actually cut this stuff with a sheetrock knife? The answer is yes. Cement boards can be cut with a utility knife and a straight edge, which creates a straight cut with minimal dust. I just happen to prefer using the blade that I got with the circular saw because it made it a much faster and easier cut. As you can see here again, the level just makes it a lot easier for me to locate the studs, and it just gives me a better workflow. I hate when I drive a screw in and I completely miss the stud, and then I have to back out the screw. It also helps in a situation like this where the studs can't be seen, and now I could just draw in my lines and know exactly where they are. You guys are going to notice that I have green sheetrock above this, and that is actually mold resistant sheetrock, and that's a 1/2 inch sheetrock that I'm using on the ceiling there. So just be mindful that I'm using mold resistant sheetrock in the entire bathroom. Here you're going to see that I'm using a level to draw out locations here for my studs. And I'm also skipping over parts where there are pipes, so I don't drive any screws anywhere near any of those pipes. The last thing you'd need at this point is driving a screw directly into a pipe and then having to remove all this stuff just to repair that piece of pipe. This is the very last piece of cement board that I'm installing here, and you're going to notice that I'm using a chisel to help me pull this up and then hold it in place so I can screw it in. You're going to notice that the cement board sits level with my sheetrock, and that's because they're both 1/2 inch, so that makes an easy transition. Alright guys, so I finally got all the Backerboard on here and I've covered every part of this shower, and so now I'm ready to apply some Thinset on here. And this is what I'm using. I'm using a VersaBond professional tile mortar. This one is ideal for large and heavy tile. I'll be installing 12 by 24 tile in my shower. And so what you want to do is you want to start out by using a bucket and placing some of this stuff in there and adding a little bit of water. And here I'm just using a screw gun and a mixer, and I'm adding water as I go along. And you really want to get this to a peanut butter consistency. Just keep that in mind. Peanut butter consistency. And once you get it to that peanut butter consistency, you're all set and good to go. Here I'm just going to be using 2 compound knives to just apply this Thinset over these screw heads, and this is just to seal those up and make sure that there's no leaks. And so you want to go one by one and just cover these screw heads and make sure they're fully covered and sealed. Now to cover the joints, I'll be using a special tape called Cement Board FibaTape, and I'll include a link in the description for you guys. This tape is specifically designed for this application. It sort of resembles sheetrock mesh tape, but it's not exactly the same stuff. I'm starting out by filling in the joints with a thin layer of Thinset, and then I'm going to be using this tape to go right over it, just like you would with sheetrock, and then I'm going to put another layer of Thinset over it, and then smooth it out. This holds the Thinset together and it creates a nice watertight seal for these joints. You'll want to cover every single joint with this stuff because you want to make sure that it's all watertight and sealed, because the last thing you're going to need is a leak. Here I'm applying Thinset all around the gaps where my niche is. And you want to make sure that you spend some time here and do this correctly. You want to work it into all the screw holes and all the gaps all the way around, because this could potentially be one of the largest areas where you can get a leak. Once you get everything all worked in with the Thinset here, you can then go ahead and then put some tape around it just the way you did with all the joints. This will ensure that this niche is completely watertight and there will be no way for water to get into any of those openings. Taking your time and ensuring that this is completely done right will be worth it in the end, because this is going to be a permanent install and there's no way you're going to be able to access all of this unless you have to break everything off to get to it. So your patience will really go a long way here for you. When I'm sealing these corner pieces here, I basically take the tape and fold it in half, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to get it into the corners there. And then I just use my knife to simply work it in there and push it in, and then I start covering it with Thinset. For all your water connections and fittings, you want to make sure that this is all completely watertight around here as well. So I'll be applying Thinset all into these holes here and making sure that it's fully sealed up. And here I'm just going to apply the same tape all the way around it, and this is going to help to make it completely waterproof. And once you get this tape in there and you cover this stuff up and it dries, it's going to be nice and tight. You want to do the same thing for your valve assembly here, and I'm just going to be taking my time and just plugging these holes here all the way around, because these are spots that water will be notorious for getting through, and so you want to make sure that you spend the time and just get these covered up. And once again, I'm using the same technique here as I did with the water fittings, basically covering it and sealing it all the way around, and then of course you're going to use your tape to then put on top all the way around. and then you're going to put Thinset right on top of there. After the Thinset was all fully dry, I used a vacuum cleaner to take out any debris between the cement board and the tub. Now we're ready to do some waterproofing all the way around these corners. So here I'm going to be using 100% tub and tile silicone, and this is fully waterproof stuff, and I'm using a white silicone. Now this is saying 7 years mold free, but we'll put that to the test. And this you can pick up at your local Home Depot or Lowe's, and I'll include a link in the description for you guys. So you want to apply this stuff in between the Backerboard and your tub. And here I'm going to be very generous. You don't want to hold back anything here. You want to make sure that this completely seals inside and it is pressed in. You want to work your way all around these corners here and making sure that you're filling in all the gaps and all the creases. You can then try to smooth it out with your fingers or whatever you'd like, and just make sure that it's pushed in there nicely. And if any of this stuff gets on the tub, you can always use a paper towel and just wipe it right off. So you want to pay attention to any instances where you spread this stuff and you see a gap. You want to go right back over it like I'm doing here, and I'm just going to ensure that it's all fully sealed up. So don't be afraid to go back and just put stuff in there, because like I said, the last thing you need is a leak, and you want to make sure that everything is nice and plugged up. And you can see that there's a couple spots that looks a little questionable, and so you want to make sure that you hit those spots and ensure that they're fully sealed up. So I'll give you a perfect example here, that once this fully dried, I noticed that there were 2 spots right here and in the other corner here that are not looking too good. And so what I did was I went back and I reapplied some of this stuff to make sure that it was fully sealed up. So this concludes my video for installing cement board in a tub shower. And I hope that you guys have learned something today, and I hope that I've made your job a little bit easier by learning some new techniques or by using some pointers that I've shared in the video. I'm going to be showing you guys in an upcoming video how to install RedGard waterproofing membrane in this same shower here. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel so you can continue to get more videos like this one. And I'll see you guys on the next one.